Hi everyone, I'm Steve. I'm here with Dr. Rodney Van Pelt. So we've got a video up explaining that if people want to, if they have questions or they have a topic that they'd like us to discuss, they can put it in the comment section of the video on the main channel here, Vitality and Wellness. So if you want to go to, if you have a question that you'd like us to address with one of the doctors that we interview, one of our personal trainers in multiple clubs, go ahead and go to that. You can get to it right here, and we'll try to address that. And it also enters you into a drawing to win $100. That drawing will be every month. We've got one coming up here very shortly. So put the topic in. So we had a response by Jennifer, who wanted to know about exercise and autoimmune disease. Autoimmune, that's a tough one. You know, it's very frustrating. I know people that have dealt with this or that do deal with this. It's tough. So I'll get to kind of my philosophy on what you can do as far as exercise and what you should do. Again, that's just my opinion. We'll get to that after Dr. Rodney kind of touches on autoimmune disease or disorders. Go ahead, doctor. Welcome, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here, and thank you, Jennifer, for your question. That's a really good question, right? A person who's saying, I have an autoimmune disease, what do I do? How do I exercise? I want to be active. I want to be in the gym. What do I do? What exercises can I do? How do I deal with the pain in the joints, the swelling, the fatigue? It can autoimmune diseases can cover a wide range of problems, and so thank you for that question. Um, and my answer might surprise you, okay? But I don't, I'm not as concerned with how you adjust your life to the disability that you're experiencing with the autoimmune disease as I am about how do you change the course of the disability? How do you change the course of the autoimmune disease? Like that is, and forgive me, but that's the direction I'm going to go with it. There are excellent physical trainers who can and will give you, direction on how to exercise within the limits of your disability, which is, at the heart of your question, and it's a good question, and the answer to it will allow you to get moving early, even while the problems with your autoimmune disease continue. But what I want to address is, like, what is autoimmune disease? What causes it? And do we know what causes it? Is there a way to deal with that cause and actually get well? Is there a way to not have autoimmune disease anymore? Okay, okay, these are some of the core questions I want to take a look at with you. And first of all, conventional medicine, would suggest generally that we don't know the cause of autoimmune disease and we don't have any cure for it. There is no way to cure it. And all there is taking immune suppressants to modify the symptoms, to improve the symptoms while your disease progresses and you get worse and worse. And in fact, the immune suppressants cause a host of problems all by themselves. Anyway, so that's a problematic approach to it, I think. So I would submit then that there is a cause to autoimmune diseases. And while I would submit that perhaps we don't know every cause and we don't know the causes I don't know, let's just say that we don't have complete understanding of the cause or causes. I think that's fair enough to say, but we have a lot of knowledge. Some doctors do anyway. A whole bunch don't. If you ask them, they'd say, I don't know the cause. No one does. That's what, they might submit that. But I submit that some doctors do. Those would be generally natural medicine doctors of some kind, functional medicine. And so what would that be? Okay, somehow proteins have to get into our body, into our, exposed to our immune system, kind of into our bloodstream or exposed to our immune system that shouldn't be there. They got in already without being screened. Okay, and you think, well, how do proteins, because see, our body isn't supposed to be exposed to foreign proteins. Proteins are supposed to be broken down into amino acids. Okay, individual amino acids, that's the building blocks of proteins. It's sort of like the Lego spaceship is supposed to be broken down into individual Lego pieces. Those get absorbed into our body, and our body does, recognizes them as something good for us, not as something foreign. But if pieces get in where there's several Legos stuck together, still a little chunk of Lego, it's not the whole car or the whole spaceship, but there's 8 or 10 pieces stuck together instead of the 500 that make the spaceship, and the immune system gets exposed to those, it turns out the body will say, wait a minute, that protein is foreign. It's not part of me, and develop antibodies against it to try to kill it. Those antibodies, if they cross-react with, there's some protein in my body that is me, that's similar to that chunk of the Lego spaceship, then it will become cross-reacting. The antibodies will cross-react against tissues of my own body. And so wherever those tissues are, that's where my symptoms are going to turn up. And so that can be anywhere in the body, and that's why there's so many different kinds of autoimmune diseases, is because where it's kind of random what the pieces of protein look like that the body is reacting against, that it's cross-reacting with a piece of me that it's similar to, but not similar enough to be identified as me. It's still, my immune system recognizes it as foreign, but then cross-reacts with a part of me that isn't foreign, but now it's, kind of attacking a part of my body. And if it's attacking my thyroid gland, then I have thyroid disease. If it's attacking my pancreatic islet cells, then I have diabetes, and on and on. There's like 150 plus different autoimmune illnesses, and so there's a great variety depending on what part of the body the peptides cross-react with the antibodies attack. So that's a underpinning of what autoimmune illness is and how it comes about. The question is, how does our body get exposed to those chunks, those chunky pieces of Legos like that, instead of individual Lego pieces like it's supposed to? They're supposed to be broken all the way down to amino acids. And how does our body get exposed to peptides, not a complete protein, but a little chunk of one? And the answer is, generally speaking, there's a break in the barrier of our body. Somewhere there's a break in the barrier, our skin, our mucosa, the lining of our intestines, okay? There's a break and it gets access. Partially digested proteins get access to the bloodstream or to the immune system like that. And then then our body develops an antibody against it, and then the cross-reactivity happens. And so let's answer the question, well, how do these peptides get access to our body? Okay, how do they, or to break through the skin barrier or the mucosa barrier of our body and our intestinal barriers? So things get through the skin. I mean, one of the primary ways things get through the skin is injections, right? When a needle is put through the skin, okay, we broke through the barrier, right? So then you have to say, well, what's inside the syringe? Okay, what's in there when a syringe goes into us? I would suggest that every viewer should want to know in some detail what is in every syringe or every bag that's hung in an IV that's going through a needle into my body. Okay, we want to be especially thoughtful of any proteins that are going in there or pieces of protein. And so the most common thing that we get exposed to by shots is vaccinations. Okay, and so good question to analyze carefully. What is in that syringe? What's in that vial that's being put into us? Okay, it's possible that there could be pieces of protein in there. See, there are pieces of protein in there, that's for sure. They put them in there, they tell you that. That's how they're trying to make your immune system react to the virus or bacteria, whatever the vaccination is for. But nonetheless, the question is it possible that my body could cross-react with whatever protein they put in there, and then an autoimmune illness could come out of it? There's evidence that that does happen in some cases, so it's something to consider. The other primary thing is like our intestines. They have a lining, 1 cell thick. That is the lining that separates what we eat, right? The food that we're eating and digesting. That's what separates it from our blood, from the capillaries that are going to absorb the nutrients. There's just 1 cell layer thick all around that, in that tube. And so it's, it's delicate and it's very thin. And so if we eat things that cause there to be gaps in the cells, or it makes it inflamed and swollen, where the cells come together, it doesn't seal right. The name for that is leaky gut. At least a name for it is leaky gut. It's a problem, and lots of people are experiencing it. And that's a primary way for getting autoimmune illnesses. And is that leaky gut problem. And then partially digested food in our intestines winds up getting access to the bloodstream and the immune system, and then antibodies are formed against these partially digested proteins, and then they cross-react with something in the body, and presto, we have one of the 150 plus autoimmune diseases, and it's not nice. The good news is, no matter what kind of autoimmune disease it is, no matter what kind, we can do things that help our body recover from that. We can actually make steps in our lives to heal my leaky gut, to make it whole again. And it's not a really simple thing, and in this video I can't go into any detail about describing how to heal a gut, leaky gut. It can be quite complicated to do, but it involves things like changing my diet. Like, what am I eating? What am I eating? What am I putting in my body? And probiotics, supplements like probiotics and postbiotics and prebiotics, which is a lot of that is dietary. And then eliminating things that are just toxic to my body, and specifically toxic to my intestines. And so, and then, with regard to injections, I can have a great deal of care about what I allow to be injected into my body, right? Anyway, so there are doctors who do it. There, are functional medicine doctors or natural medicine doctors generally, who will help people with leaky gut and other, eliminating toxins in the body, which are, causing leaky gut and whatever it is. So we eliminate toxins, we put in the good things that we need, In some cases, we need to fix the microbiome. Like some of you have heard of that. It's pretty common these days. It's talked about quite a bit, but that's the kind of the host of bacteria that live in our gut. They live in our gut, and turns out it's actually good for us when it's healthy, at least. But when the microbiome is healthy, it's really good for us. And what we eat and think and do is affected by the microbiome and affects the microbiome. And so we want to give some care to that, and that takes some repair. And it's interesting to address that problem. It's not a real simple process, but I want you to hear it, that it can be addressed. Autoimmune illnesses are not just one giant mystery that has no cure. That I want to pop that bubble and suggest there are answers to what causes it. And once we know that, we can devise ways to deal with it.
So where do we start to find these answers? I know we're going to do an interview with Dr. Nario on some of the treatments that they use uh, for treating some of these different disorders. But it sounds like you're really emphasizing diet and what to eat, but and what you put in your body. But everyone is so different, and especially I think with autoimmune diseases, your body can respond differently to, you have allergies, and so what would you suggest? What type of doctor should someone see, or any advice that you can give our listeners about, okay, try going in this direction first and then work from there?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. That's a good question. And, I think as far as what type of doctor, functional medicine doctors are, it's what they do, and I think they're a great place to start. That's kind of one subcategory, natural medicine doctor. And I think there are, more options, right, than that. Um, but as far as natural medicine, but functional medicine docs are a good place. And um, what if to just be individual about it, it's, as I said, I think it's pretty complex. There isn't a simple cookie cutter answer that works for everyone, as you alluded to that, in your question. And that's why you're not really hearing me, just say, this is what you need to do this, this, and this, right? Some of it is simple enough, right? A person can dramatically or drastically limit what I allow to be injected into my body. Okay, there's one thing, that's an easy thing to do, is stop putting in foreign proteins, that either do or might cause autoimmune reaction. And so, like some things are, straightforward like that. That's an approach that I follow. That's not a cure, by the way, right there. That's stopping an insult. That's you might say more prevention than cure, is to stop allowing it in. But that's how you start, is we have got to stop allowing the foreign proteins to enter the body. Okay, we have to at least begin there, and then get the toxins out, nourish the body so that it can heal. And so anyway, yeah, it's fairly broad how they would approach all of it, but I would, probably most people would need assistance of a good doctor. But there's books out on the topic. A person can do some research on the internet. They can, and read books or blogs, and because people are doing it and people are writing about it and talking about it. And one of the reasons for making this video is I want people to know about it. I want people to know there are answers. There's more answers than you're probably getting from your conventional doc, if you're seeing a conventional doc.
And I come from more of a personal training. I've been in the health and fitness business all my life, personal training, owning health clubs, running health clubs, all that stuff. So, you know, I have a philosophy when there's pain. A lot of people would want to have you push through it and work through it. I take a different approach. I like to stay within your
Mhm.
means when you're exercising to kind of get to the exercise part of this. And that is stay within your means. So don't push to where you're irritating or causing pain. Try to do exercises, multiple joint exercises that will that aren't so intense that it's going to irritate your joints and the inflammation and so on. Make sure you give yourself enough rest. Make sure your diet's good. You're hydrated. I know that I'm not giving you some magic pill or silver bullet exercise to make this go away, but I don't know of any exercises that exist for that. So I would just keep your exercises moderate within what you're comfortable with and what your body's allowing you to do, and not push it and irritate it. So that would be the advice that I would give as far as exercise with any autoimmune issues. So anything else you'd like to add, Dr. Rodney?
No, I don't think so. I agree with you that I think someone who tried to push through, yeah, through the pain, I think they would be likely to get worse and worse, and they get more and more pain until they stopped pushing, and so I do think it's a good idea to work within the limits that you have while you're getting well. Okay, that's what I would, that would be my heart's desire for you, Jennifer, and for anyone else who's watching with autoimmune disease is, be active and live as good as you can while you get well.
Okay, well, thanks for your input, Dr. Rodney. Thanks for being with us, and we will see you next time.
Adios.